arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy. Tell me if you want to follow me, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy.
Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The three wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
Before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been mugged and a drifted go out.
Back there, go on board with Ben Gregory now, I love it. 10.5 minutes gone, Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to Chaz Draycott Media, and welcome to another round of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. It's the 4th season and the 4th round of it here at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit, the modern-day Silverstone, as opposed to the 2008 scan of Silverstone that is also available here on iRacing. My name is Chaz Draycott. Unfortunately, I am alone in the commentary box for this week. My co-commentator Ed May has commitments elsewhere. I believe he's moving house at the moment, actually, is Ed, so he's not around for at least this meeting, maybe a couple of others as well, but we still hope, of course, that you enjoy the show, and obviously send our best to Ed as well, and hope that in some form he's able to still watch the racing and keep up with how the season is going. Speaking of how the season is going, this is how the points look at the moment in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. It is Simon Povey at the very top of the standings with 67 points over Nils Kor, who's taken 2 race victories on the bounce. We're here into the second sort of quarter of our season. It's split up into 4 quarters, each with 3 race meetings in them, and we now start our tour over into Europe, and Nils Kor has won the last 2 races. Taylor Adams doing well up there in 3rd place, but he's only 1 point ahead of Danny Lee, who's only 2 points ahead of Dominic Brennan. It's ridiculously close between all the guys up there at the moment, and even in the teams championship it's close as well. RD Simsport only 1 point ahead of Regenta Sim Racing, with Danny Lee Pro Simrig following on, and then Spontex CDM Esports and Satellite Racing with just 2 points between them. So it's been a very entertaining start to the campaign, but right now it's a little bit quiet at the moment out on the circuit as the drivers get towards the end of practice. I believe that Andy is doing one of his drivers briefings at the moment as well. All the drivers, by the look of it, are in Discord, but they are still allowed to at least drive around a little bit and put some laps in. We look here at Martin Kenyon, who is currently in 21st position, but at the very top of the standings is another Aston Martin, another blue and white one, funnily enough. This man, Danny Lee, by 23 thousandths of a second, is currently the fastest man on track, and he's going to be really pleased with that. Danny's been a fantastic addition to the grid. He's brought with him as well his teammate Dean Powell for this season. It's looking good for the Spontex CDM Esports guys as well. Actually, Dominic Brennan 6th. We then have Gary Tall in 7th and Efkan Berkier in 8th place. But no Simon Povey. No Simon for this round of the championship, at least because Mrs. Povey gave birth to young Maxwell, who was born on Saturday evening. And we send our congratulations to Simon, and of course the lovely Laura, who puts up with all of his rubbish, but it's obviously real life coming first here, and Simon will not be racing with us this evening, and maybe for a couple of rounds at least to go, unless Laura lets him. But still, congratulations guys, we're all very, very pleased for you, but of course we will miss Simon being on our grid for the next couple of rounds. But this is Danny Lee, fastest at the moment. A number of other cars have now headed out onto the circuit, which tells me that the driver's briefing is over. This is Matt Slight in car 53. He is one of the Regenta Sim Racing McLarens. His teammate Taylor Adams is just behind him on the road, and just behind him in the session, actually, Mike Horder going well. It's good to have Mike back with us. He was missing around at Daytona, and Mike is certainly showing us that the Aston Martin and the McLaren, both the British marks, very solid around Silverstone. Dominic Brennan, currently 6th quickest at the moment. He's the highest placed of all of the Porsches. He's got Toby Johns in front of him there as well in the McLaren, currently in 24th position. Of course, his father, Alex Johns, is one of the sponsors of the championship, who we give a big, big thanks to. We have Oris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters on board. Grateful for each and every one of them to be supporting the championship. Drew Fletcher is out there. He's the man behind Derbyshire Holiday Homes. I actually met up with Drew in person last week as well. Had a fantastic day and spoke shop about everything. And it was just a very, very good laugh. He's a lovely bloke, is Drew. Unfortunately, I'm still to meet Heinz and Ralph Meyer in person. Ralph just in front of Drew on the circuit, but still, these guys also a fantastic laugh and great supporters of what we do here at Sim Racing Magazine's GT4 Challenge. Andy Marston, the boss man, currently in the pit lane there in his Porsche. Peter Brill, his teammate, is back for this round as well. It's good to have him. What colour is Ben Chalcraft today? I tell you, this whole sort of running joke of Seabrooks liveries and the different flavours that Ben and his teammate Mike Murphy are running has taken over the Discord server everywhere and every single day. All over Europe, all these drivers are constantly posting pictures of where they've seen their latest packet of Seabrooks crisps and how much they are in each shop. So trust us, we know what we're doing when it comes to getting a good deal on Seabrook crisps. Still, It's fantastic banter, and that's what the championship's all about. We've got a bit of a cliche saying it's a bit of a family vibe, but honestly everybody gets on so well. It really is lovely. Here's Gilles Gardner in the Legends Racing Porsche in the Cayman 718. He's currently in 23rd position. We've got Ralph Meyer ahead of him, then Martin Kenyon, who's just come into the pits. John Barnes is back once again in the McLaren 570S GT4. Currently at the moment, Mr. Barnes is in 13th position in car 777. Hello to all of you in the YouTube chat as well, and watching potentially over on Facebook. Hope you're having a fantastic evening so far. Hope your week has started well. And on top of that, hope that you're enjoying the show up to this moment. We have a 15-minute qualifying session just around the corner, and then a 1-hour race here with the drivers limited to 40% fuel, which will mean that they then have, of course, just the 2 pit stops to complete. Usually really spices up the races, to be fair. John Barnes floating his way around Copse, the old first corner here at Silverstone, and down towards Maggots and Beckett's. It's a very shiny surface here at Silverstone. It looks beautiful. It's one of iRacing's later circuits when they started adding a lot of textures to the track rather than it be a sort of flat, solid image. There's a lot of what they call bump mapping on the track. So it tells the light in the sim where to reflect and where there might be shadows and so on. So it adds a lot more texture to it. John Barnes now heading down the Hangar Straight. There's a few cars that will have a bit of an advantage down there as they go towards the long right-hander at Stowe. At the bottom, very scary corner, and certainly a pivotal corner on the circuit actually, because you need to get a good run out of there into the final chicane, but also it's one where you can lose a lot of time if you're a little bit too careful on a qualifying lap. Barnes is just about to come around the last corner now. We switch to someone that's just going around the first couple of corners. Efkan Berkier, the Turkish driver, car number 31. Currently at the moment, Efkan, he's down in 15th place in the championship. He had a very strong initial first round, it has to be said. But then in round 2 at Road America, he was involved in a big accident at the start of the race, which lost him a lot of championship points. And since then, he's not quite been able to drag it all back, unfortunately, but he's doing well at the moment, up there inside the top 10. But as I mentioned, Danny Lee currently the quickest. As the checkered flag comes out, session will come to a close. Danny Lee will be fastest in practice here at Silverstone in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We now just wait to see who is going to be the first driver to head out onto the circuit for their first qualifying lap. Qualifying just about to get underway now. We'll go to the pit lane camera if we can just grab somebody that's actually out on the circuit. There they are, heading out at the end of the pit lane, and there's the rest of the field, look, all making their way out. Obviously, I am commentating on my own this evening, everybody, so there may be points where you have to bear with me for a sec just while I have a quick drink and crack on. I've got rid of the horrible cough that I had a while ago, but still not running at 100% when I commentate on my own, so please do bear with me. But right now, everybody making their way out on track. And the field will fill the circuit, as you'll see on the track map. Well, not there, because it should be this one. The field all together. And it's the number 15 machine of Nils Kaur that's actually at the back of the pack at the moment. Championship leader, effectively, if you discount Simon Povey. The number 6 machine still in the pit lane, which is Philip Hopley, and Ryan Penny has not entered the pit lane yet. Neither is Martin Kenyon. So we'll have to wait and see whether those guys get out in a lot of clear air. Taylor Adams has got Paul Goffin just in front of him in the McLaren. He's going through Maggots and Beckett's now. You can see here just how busy Maggots and Beckett's is in this McLaren. A very busy part of the racetrack. I'm wondering if we can actually just make a tiny adjustment to the McLaren's camera here, because I've always wanted to lower that camera. We'll bring it down, shall we, so you can see a little bit more out of the windscreen, because it was always in a very high up position and we couldn't see. I think it might be his teammate Matt Slight that is the sort of first car to... Yes, he will be the first car to get to the line. It's a long lap here, though, so 15 minutes qualifying isn't very long, as Mike Horder has gone off in the background. Mike's had a spin. He's still going to be able to recover and get back on with a fast lap, but that won't go down well for Mike. He'll have to recover from there. Not sure if he had any contact or got any help. But it's Matt Slight that starts the first fast lap of the night here at Silverstone. We'll go on board with him, give him the honours. It's not something Rollway's going to do, but we'll still at least ride on board with him and see what you all make of this, shall we? Into this new section of Silverstone. Still feels very new, doesn't it? The right-hander at Abbey, then Farm Curve. Just been through Village, and now they're into what is known as the Loop. Horrible left-hander. I really don't like the new section. I'm not sure if anybody else agrees, but I think the old chicane that used to go down towards Bridge and so on was just amazing. Now, out of Aintree and down the Wellington straight towards Brooklands. And then into what I still call sort of Luffield 1 and Luffield 2. This was effectively Luffield 1, but is now Brooklands, and then this is Luffield 2. But this is the only one of them that is these days called Luffield. Another very difficult corner, though. You've got to sort of take an early apex, let the car run wide, and sort of tell yourself in your brain that that's fine, you're allowed to run wide, and then cut back across. You've got to be really careful cutting across the inside there on the old start-finish straight anyway. Make sure you don't get a slowdown penalty handed to you by the sim, and through Cops. Really tough corner, big sausage curbs on the inside, a lot of runoff on the outside, but because of how flat Silverstone is, it's really difficult to judge just about how far wide you're going to go through Maggots and Beckett's, the left and then the right. Lovely section of corners, absolutely amazing to ride on board with, and then Chapel down towards the Hanger Straight. Stowe at the bottom of here, then we've got the Vale and Club section to end the lap, and that's going to be it for Matt Slight. No improvement in the second sector. He went purple for a brief moment there by the look of it. He's turned in a little bit early into Stowe. I think the car tried to over-rotate on him. Taylor Adams has done personal bests in every sector. Matt Slight is not hanging about here, but they need to get these banker laps in, as we call them here. You have to get a good lap on the board early doors, just because you've not got a long session behind you. Around the final corner goes Matt Slight, completing a lap of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Taylor Adams goes purple in the final sector. Slight with a 2:10.8, and it's a 2:10.6 for Taylor Adams. Paul Goffin about half a second off that. Toby Johns crosses the line. He does a 2:12.6. Dominic Brennan's just done a solid time by the look of it. Dean Powell is the one that goes fastest, though, with a 2:10.5. Mike Horder goes 4th fastest. Drew Fletcher's gone 9th. Chalcraft 8th. John Roberts 10th. Mike Murphy now hops up into 8th position. Then it's Pete Thickett, and Danny Lee goes fastest with a 2 minutes 10.3. James Holman 30 thousandths of a second off him. So James Holman putting in a really good time to begin with as well. Efkan Berkier's gone 5th fastest in the Spontex CDM Esports Porsche. And Niels Kaur, championship leader, effectively goes up into 4th place. And look at that. Less than half a second covering the top 7 cars. Only just over half a second covering the top 8. We've got more times coming in. Gilles Gardner's completed a lap as well. Oh, there's a big crash in the background there. There was a car in the wall. I didn't quite catch who that was. I think it was Martin Kenyon. It was Martin Kenyon off and into the barriers. This was Mike Horder's issue earlier. Apologies, the camera freaked out a little bit there. Oh, he's just slowing it down behind Paul Goffin and lost it. We're going to rewind here. Unfortunately, there's no event between those two moments, so we're going to see what happened to Martin Kenyon. If you bear with me, we'll catch this. Or hopefully we will, anyway. This was what went on earlier, anyway. Yeah, not quite sure on this one. I do apologise, everybody. Oh well. Doesn't look like we're going to get to see what happened to Martin Kenyon. Danny Lee is off the road, the man that is currently fastest. Off before Maggots and Beckett's, which is a strange one. He's just coasting along. Taylor Adams is 5th at the minute, hoping to improve here. Matt Slight and Taylor Adams have both got a couple of purple, not purple, that's green, Chaz, come on. The cars are purple, but the sectors are green. Matt Slight, does he improve enough in that one sector to improve in overall lap time? No, he does not. Paul Goffin just behind does not improve either. Ben Chalcraft surely improves. He does. He goes up into 13th position in the BMW. Dominic Brennan goes 3rd now, tucked up behind Toby Johns. Drew Fletcher goes 14th fastest. You score points all the way down to 20th position in this championship. So there's plenty of opportunity. James Holman improves in 2 of the sectors but doesn't get a better lap outright. He's got Pete Thickett behind him. It's great to see Pete back out there. He was a bit discouraged after some of the previous luck that he'd had in some of the rounds. But it's lovely to see that Pete is back with us in the Egg Tic Tac car for Scuderia Chicken House. Gilles Gardner looks like he's about to improve on his lap time. 4 green sectors around the lap. And Gilles Gardner does improve, but not by enough to move him up a position. Martin saying he's not going back out again, keeping it realistic. That's fair enough, Martin. Fair enough, mate. You're well within your right to, buddy. But we'll go from there. This is Gary Tall in the Spontex CDM Esports unwashed livery. The greyer of the two Porsches on your screen. Round Copse they go. That's Dominic Brennan just in front of him there. Just ahead of them is one of the McLarens, actually. I think that's Toby Johns that they've got just ahead of them on the track. Toby's been doing really well. His father, Alex, actually, I mentioned that he's one of the sponsors of the championship as Bespoke Shelters. He's actually been racing in the CDM Speedway Super League as well. Great to see Gary doing well here, though. Dominic Brennan 3rd fastest at the moment, then Dean Powell, then Nils Kaur. Dominic actually looking down the inside, trying to overtake Toby Johns on this lap. It's a bit of a squeeze, but to be fair, Toby's in his right to carry on running as quickly as he wants here. Getting in a little bit of racing practice here. Oh, Gary Tall throws one up the inside of his teammate and says, I'll try and give it a go if you want. And they go around the final corner now onto the start-finish straight with 6 minutes left on the clock. And these guys hoping to try and use Toby's slipstream a little bit here. Toby's 22nd at the moment in car 122. We've got Philip Hopley, who hasn't completed a time yet. Just going down the old start-finish straight in towards Copse. Ryan Penny hasn't put a time in either. It doesn't even look like he's been out in this session, though. Martin Kenyon got going and had his accident, but it's Danny Lee again, the fastest man out there at the moment. He was setting himself up for a lap there. Definitely setting himself up for a lap. We go on board with the Aston Martin. Aston Martin, of course, released or made us all aware of their new Aston Martin Vantage GT3 just the other day. And my word, it's a stunning car. So if you haven't seen that yet, please do go and look. Just make sure you don't close this tab, everybody. Keep your eyes on the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge here on Chaz Draycott Media. 5 minutes left to go in qualifying, and Danny Lee is being very, very particular and very tidy about this first sector. And down the back straight he goes. Love this livery as well. The Danny Lee Pro Sim Rig livery does look very, very tasty on that Aston with the slight metallic blue effect. One way, then the other, and oh, it looks, see, ran out of words there, but it looks like it goes in a little bit too sharp into Luffield, but it just works. Now, when you get over half of the car on the outside of those white and black curbs, I can tell you that's when you get a penalty out of there. I'm not sure if he's got one in this case. His teammate Dean Powell's going well in 4th position at the moment as well. In terms of the team's championship, the Danny Lee Pro Sim Rig team are only 14 off RD Simsport, with Regenta Sim Racing just 1 point off the championship leaders as well. That's James Holman is currently top. I don't believe his teammate is actually racing with us this evening, which is Christopher Smith. Don't seem to see him out there on track, so this is a great opportunity for the likes of Taylor Adams and Matt Slight for Regenta Sim Racing to take their revenge. We haven't seen anything of Stephen Burns tonight, although the first time we look at him, he's unfortunately resetting back to the pit lane. Stephen and his teammate Kyle Ridley, both been very entertaining in the Win It or Bin It Racing BMWs so far in this campaign. But doesn't look like Kyle's here for this one. Kim Such just improved on his lap time for Oris Racing Green. Even though very little of the car is green. Danny Lee has actually gone down to 2nd place. James Holman has gone fastest. James Holman beats him by 46 thousandths of a second. And Danny is gearing himself up for a lap here. Like he's wanting that clear track. He may have done a purple sector 1 last time. That doesn't count for anything right now. There's Gilles Gardner just moving out of the way on the right hand side. And Danny Lee gets back on with it again, but it's this man, James Holman, in the Mercedes. The only Mercedes. No, actually, there's 2 Mercedes in the top 20. John Roberts in there in 20th place. Very pretty Mercedes, actually, is John Roberts. That neon green pattern all over the back, although he's got a little bit too hot into Luffield there. And he's pulling out of the way by the look of it to make sure he doesn't impede anybody else on the circuit. Actually, he's going to go straight back to the pits there, I think. Niels Kor still finds himself in 5th, but he's been able to pull some blinding strategies to win the last 2 races in the championship. It's just great watching these cars head around Silverstone. It's always an interesting one here at the home of British motorsport, as it's called. Because this circuit is so flat, there are slight inclinations to it, but it's just a very, very wide, flat track, so it doesn't have as much character as a few others, but still, the speed of the place is awesome to watch racing cars at. And Niels Kor is making that BMW look good at the moment. Highest placed BM in the field, Mike Murphy is the next one, then he's got Pete Thickett and Ben Chalcraft for company. They're all going to be together on the grid by the look of it, if the session continues how it is. Drew Fletcher's going to be the next car across the line. He's flashing his lights as he heads across there. Mike Horder is next up, then Efkan Berkier. And Pete Thickett just crossing the line now as well to improve on his time. No, actually, no final sector improvement there. Ralph Meyer and James Holman has improved on 3 sectors and goes even faster. Brings it down to a 2 minutes 10.232 does James Holman. Can Danny Lee respond to that? Niels Kor's done a purple middle sector. Does that help him out? No, it does not. Peter Brill round the final corner. He's looking to improve. He's got 2 sectors improvement there. Don't think it counted that time round. Here's Danny Lee. He's going to start one more lap after this one. But I think that's going to be it otherwise for Danny. 2 green sectors in the middle. And no, it's not an improvement for him. So unfortunately, Danny has to make this final lap count. And that is going to be it. He's under pressure now. Dean Powell, 4th fastest. He's got 1 green sector on the lap. Is that going to be enough to improve, though? Doesn't look like it, no. He's quite a while off at this point. I think that's going to be a 2:11. Doesn't even look like it counted, actually, for Dean Powell. Martin Kenyon in the chat asking when the first sprint races are. In a week. In a week. I cannot wait, actually. I'm really excited for the rounds 5 and 6 of the championship. We're here for round 4, just the one endurance race. But we go to Circuit de Le Denon in Francais in a week's time. Le Denon is a fantastic track. I was supposed to go there actually a couple of years ago with Clio Cup Europe and unfortunately didn't get the opportunity because I think the race got cancelled. We never ended up racing there as Paul Goffin decides to try and join Monster Jam with that sort of jump over the curb. 4th sector for him was an improvement, but not enough on the overall lap. And to be fair, Riley, that's how you're supposed to say it. Le Denon. Not Ledanon. It's Le Denon. Mike Horder's got 2 green sectors here around the final corner. First and third sectors. Looking a lot better. And wow, a lot better. 7th position for Mike Horder. Goes ahead of Efkan Berkier and Gary Tull. Don't see any other improvements, although Taylor Adams has got 2 green sectors. He's looking feisty here around the final couple of corners, just behind Mark Johnson. Not quite sure if he... Yes, he did. It did count. Taylor Adams goes up into 5th place ahead of Niels Kor. Danny Lee next up. And would you look at that? Kyle Ridley. Kyle is in. He's here. He's woken up. It's morning in Australia. And Kyle Ridley is cracking on. And Ryan Penny having technical issues by the look of it. I'm sorry to see it, buddy. I think Kyle's on a flying lap. He is actually, yes. This is a flying lap for Kyle Ridley. So we'll have to wait and see. Oh, that might have been an off track for him though. We'll see. We will see. We'll go on board with the BMW as he comes out of Chapel. Down the hanger straight. Place your bets, everybody. If this lap's going to count, it probably should count because he's carrying on. I think we'd know if it wasn't going to count. He would probably pull over to one side. Place your bets, everybody. What position do you think Kyle Ridley will be in on the grid with this single lap that he's putting in qualifying? Never mind. Shut up. Take your bets away. Delete your comments, all sorts. Because Kyle Ridley is on his way into the pits. He's doing pit entrance practice, which is oh so important here at Silverstone, because it is a dodgy pit lane. Pit lane that I've stood in a lot of times, actually, presenting and doing interviews and so on. Most notably for the BRSCC last year, actually, in their October race meeting with Caterham. But still, that is qualifying over, and that is a championship point going the way of James Holman for pole position. He'll be over the moon with that one. Very, very close, though, between himself and Danny Lee. I think Danny bailed out of his final lap in that session. Don't think it quite came to anything. But Dominic Brennan will start third with Dean Powell just behind. We're going to go straight to the grid in just a moment, and the hour-long race will be prepared. I'll have to wait and see now what the situation is. You will all see the session tick over in just a moment. As we say, it'll change to the race session as opposed to qualifying, where the sunlight will change, the crowd will disappear, then reappear any moment now. And there you go. So now we're into the race session, and we get our grid. They should be forming up on the back straight. At the moment, if we go to the chopper cam, they absolutely are. So, here is the grid for you. James Holman and Danny Lee on the front row, with Dominic Brennan and Dean Powell on row 2. We then have Taylor Adams in 5th place and Nils Kaur in 6th. Mike Horder and Efkan Berkier make up row 4. Gary Tall and Matt Slight complete the top 10 ahead of Paul Goffin and then John Barnes, with Mike Murphy in 13th and Pete Thickett in 14th. Ben Chalcraft is just behind his teammate, 15th on the grid, with Mark Johnson taking up the 16th spot. Drew Fletcher is 17th, alongside Kim Such on row 9. Then it's Stephen Burns and John Roberts completing the top 20. Ralph Meyer and Philip Hopley make up row 11, ahead of Toby Johns and Gilles Gardner, 23rd and 24th. Andy Marston and his teammate Peter Brill make up row 13, ahead of Kyle Ridley, Martin Kenyon and Ryan Penny, who will be organised by iRating because they didn't set lap times in the session. Here is the view back from Dean Powell's machine. I've messed with a couple of the onboard cameras as well, by the way, that look backwards, because we had a lot of issues with the Aston Martin. You couldn't actually see anything because the rear wing was perfectly aligned to the horizon, so any cars behind them were just completely invisible. But there is our beautifully organised grid. James Holman having a little bit of a blink in and out there. Hopefully that is not something that continues, because James has had a few connection issues before. We just wait now for Taylor Adams, who's just popped up now. There he is in the McLaren, and that is going to be it by the look of it. Doesn't look like Ryan Penny has unfortunately been able to join the session. So we will start with 28 cars on our grid. Great to see the turnout always remaining strong in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Here's Pete Thickett in the Scuderia Chicken House car. The lovely green and white spotty machine that it is. He's with his fellow green BMW enthusiast, Mike Murphy, alongside him on the right there in the Seabrooks brand. For Minardi Simsport. Ben Chalcraft in the white and blue machine this week. I forgot to ask him what flavour it was, actually. It's written on the bonnet, probably, so we'd be able to see it. But an hour's race at Silverstone is about to get underway here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. With no Simon Povey here, it's a perfect chance for Nils Kaur to get some big championship points. But it's chance enough for anybody within the top 4 or 5 to take the lead. And James Holman gets us underway at Silverstone in round 4 of the championship. And I need to remember to turn my spotter off after recording that video the other day. Still, great tidy start around the first couple of corners for everybody. Down the start-finish straight they go. Looking very good indeed, although Kyle Ridley, I think that was there, just having a major wobble in the background as he tries to get past Andy Marston. Let's see how the leaders get on, though, in the first couple of corners. And it is tidy from James Holman's perspective. It's side by side in the background there. Nils Kaur. Dean Powell's lost 2 places off the start here. He's not had a fantastic getaway. He's lost quite a bit of ground as the Regenta Sim Racing McLaren of Matt Slight. Toby Johns has actually gained 2 spots off the start, so he's had a good getaway. He's actually nearly the biggest mover in the field. Kyle Ridley's gained 3 spots after an opportunistic getaway. So let's keep our eye on Kyle throughout this race and see how far he can go. But it's James Holman leading the way at the moment in the Mercedes. I've changed the rear wing angle on this as well so you can see. And that is Danny Lee right behind him. Then Dominic Brennan, Taylor Adams and Nils Kaur. That is the top 5. Oh, there's been an issue, and you're not going to believe who it is. It's Kyle Ridley. Kyle having dramas and dropping down the order. He's been off on the inside of Luffield by the look of it. Not quite sure if he's had contact with somebody. As he's down the inside of Ralph Meyer. Oh, and he just pitches into the inside of him. I think Ralph carried on without losing too much ground. Yeah, I think he just lost the one place, did Ralph, but Kyle has now made it all the more difficult for him. Dean Powell and Mike Horder side by side in the Aston Martin fight here. Dean on the outside, Mike on the inside, and then Gary Tall wants a bit of that as well in the Porsche. He's got Efkan Berkier as well, stablemate at Spontex CDM Esports behind him, but the unwashed teammate is Jakub Szymanski, who unfortunately isn't here tonight. Down towards Stowe for the first time. Already nearly 2 minutes gone here. There's not many laps completed in comparison to some of our other races in the series. But overall, very, very tidy start. Everyone doing a great job at keeping it clean in that opening sector, especially here at Silverstone. It's not easy to do that. Mike Murphy's got his teammate behind him, but just ahead, actually. He's got a great view of the battle between John Barnes and the McLaren on the left and Paul Goffin in the Porsche on the right. Those two making near contact as Paul tries to get the turn in, I should say, of the Porsche, while John tries to give him room. He's holding up the guys behind him. Ben Childcraft, he sees a gap. Sorry, Mike Murphy sees a gap. And Danny Lee, by the way, has gone for the race lead. He's tried the move on James Holman. These two have had some great battles each throughout this season so far. Dominic Brennan's going to be, well, hoping that he can get back in front of Danny. Danny does not want to look at the back of this Porsche ever again, I don't think. But this is the battle for the lead right now from the viewpoint of Dominic Brennan, currently third in the race. And look at that. Beautiful, tidy stuff by Danny. And the two of them both absolutely park it as well. They hold up the group, and there's Taylor Adams in this as well, and then Niels Kaur just behind these guys, so it's nice and close. Drew Fletcher and Stephen Burns swapping places. There's a bit of a kiss there between Drew. Oh no, there's contact with Pete Thickett as well. Drew's been bullied out wide. There's cars all over the place trying to go past him. John Roberts wants a bit of it as well. Not a clue what happened there. Not sure if there was contact before that led to Drew being overtaken, but here they are side by side. Oh, they're rubbing panels all the way down the straight. Drew's on the brakes, Stephen around the outside. Oh, they're just leaning on each other and leaning on each other. Drew doesn't want to give the room on that inside line, and then Pete Thickett, I think, just overdoes it a slight bit, trying to find an opportune gap down the inside. Here's the Seabrook squadron in the middle of the field. Mike Murphy has got the tiny Porsche of Paul Goffin just in front, and the towering BMW of Ben Childcraft behind him. In terms of the point scoring positions, Toby Johns is just outside of the top 20, but he's hoping to get past Kim Such, who is only about 0.2 of a second ahead of him right there in the orange Porsche. But after that move earlier on, Danny Lee now holds the race lead, but you can see that the entire top 10 still very, very close. I think the top 10 separated just by less than 5 seconds, actually. Niels Kaur does the fastest lap of the race as they go to start the next lap of this one. Great stuff by Danny, though. He's proven himself already in practice and qualifying that he's got the pace to lead this race and be right up there consistently. Can James Holman take advantage of Simon Povey's absence here and get some more points on the board? There's only 8 points between Danny and James. James finds himself 8th in the championship, though. Danny finds himself 4th at the minute. Dominic Brennan there, just behind, is in 5th in the championship as well on 51 points. It's so close all the way up and down. There is Niels Kaur. He's got a nice little gap behind him to Dean Powell there. He doesn't have to worry about that too much at this moment in time. There's more battling going on here between Stephen Burns and Pete Thickett. The two of them ragging these BMWs around. There's a bit of contact. And Stephen now finds himself behind the egg machine, hopefully not stepping on eggshells around him. It's good to see Pete back with us. Like I say, he's getting in the thick of it now as well. And that wasn't even pun intended, actually, but it's a pun that Ed and I have made a few times since the season started. Now look behind them as well. John Roberts wants a bit of this action. John in the Mercedes, one of just 3 Mercedes in the field in our championship. The previous season had a lot of them on the grid, but this time round it's not the car to be in, it seems. John going through Maggots and Beckett's, and then Chapel on the exit of that beautiful section. Oh no, there's been drama. Peter Brill is around. Kyle Ridley has been involved. Wow, the Win It or Bin It Racing BMWs are not having a simple evening, are they? There's Kyle. Goes past Peter Brill. Oh, Peter just ran a little bit wide. And the contact, obviously, at that sort of speed does the both of them. Gilles Gardner does well to avoid. And Kyle's had a lively race already, and he's only done about 4 laps, including qualifying. Paul Goffin still under pressure. He's got the 2 BMWs behind him, crunching away. Mike Murphy and Ben Shellcraft. And then Mark Johnson. He's gained a place from where he started up into 15th position. Biggest mover so far is actually Martin Kenyon. He's gained 4 spots. Currently finds himself in 24th place here, just behind the boss, Andy Marston. Martin's another one that's been racing in the CDM Speedway Super League in the Dirt Legends, also on my channel. Martin taking one of the many different lines around here to try and get some sort of cutback on Andy Marston. It looks like he's got it done as well. Great move that as they go through the loop. Over to the left. Andy gives it a little dab of the brakes just to stabilise the car, make sure he's not going to cut in on Martin, and through he goes. Philip Hopley wants a bit of that as well now. He appears suddenly on the right-hand side of Andy Marston, tries to go around the outside. Andy very respectfully bows out of that one. Further up, Mike Horder's in the thick of this, with Dean Powell just in front of him, Gary Tall just behind him, as they head through Copse. It's great, the consistent noise of the cars here at this track. It's always noisy, it's always busy at Silverstone. But look at these leaders though. Danny Lead at the minute. He's on his own stream as well over on YouTube. Won't be the most exciting of streams at the moment. There's no one to look at, but that's always the sort of race you want. No news is good news sometimes. He's made the move, got to the front, and he's just going to be checking the mirror because James Holman, well, we know James is really good at saving fuel when he needs to be. James, a real world racer who's raced many times in the Legends all around Europe. Certainly an experienced bloke, but also rapid as well. So there's a great group of them actually there. We've got all 5 manufacturers in the top 5. Would you look at that? Got an Aston Martin leading a Mercedes, a Porsche, a McLaren and a BMW. You've got to love that. All different teams as well. Excellent. That's a fantastic advert for the category, isn't it? 5 different manufacturers in the top 5, covered by less than 5, well, not even 5 seconds. 2.5 seconds between the top 5 cars right now. Excellent stuff. You can hear just how much Nils Core is not accelerating through these corners. So much lifting and coasting going on. He's happy to sit there and try and make the most of the fuel and use the strategy to his advantage. Through they go then around the final couple of corners of what was the old circuit. Round the sweep they go onto what is actually a start-finish straight that is still used here at Silverstone. I've commentated there many times and they still use the national circuit very often with that start-finish straight. Here's Stephen Burns, John Roberts and Drew Fletcher just behind him. Pete Thickett's actually got past and moved away at this stage. That shot of them going through Maggots and Beckett's is so cool, isn't it? Looks really, really awesome. Down the start-finish straight. Sorry, not the start-finish straight. The hanger straight goes Danny Lee. And he's still got this train of cars behind him at this moment. Danny isn't one to really get shaken by pressure behind though from other drivers, so I think he's going to be able to hold on to this very well. Another fastest lap of the race comes in, and this time it's by Dominic Brennan. A little bit of a gap actually back to Taylor Adams on that lap. It's intriguing because Nils Kor might be worrying about the fact that he could lose time there. Because if Nils is trying to save fuel and stick with that group and use the slipstream, then it's the worst case scenario if that group then gets away. Andy Fox in the chat. Bye. God, it's been a while, Andy. It's good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Saying that he loves the green wheels on Stevie's car. Someone has to, Andy. Someone has to. But it's the green highlights that go with it. He's surrounded by green cars, actually. He's got John Roberts behind him, Pete Thickett in front of him. Mike Murphy's not far up the road either. Still stuck with his teammate. Paul Goffin's just ahead of them. But it's been a tidy race so far, hasn't it? No large dramas or chaos. But a beautiful lead pack here, and I think actually James Holman has sort of played a little bit of reverse psychology here. And Danny Lee being in front of him is just what he wants, because it means that he gets to savour the slipstream. It's actually both of the Danny Lee Pro Simrig cars leading the individual quintets at this point. Aidan Millward in the chat as well. Good to see you, Aidan. Hope you're doing well, mate. Hope you are doing well. I catastrophically disagree with you that this is the best circuit in the world. It's one of my least favourites. But it's like, you know, everyone says that they don't like where they live. You know, it's like, oh, I live in Crewe. You know, Crewe's rubbish. It's not that bad. But still, everyone says that they don't like where they're from. So maybe it's that. Maybe I'm bored of it. The Red Arrows are boring, but the Blue Angels aren't. Never seen the Blue Angels in person, though. Figure that out. Anyway, Danny Lee, a little bit wide there around the second to last corner. Tucks it in nicely for the final little kink to the right, though. Obviously, he gets to open up the corner, but it's not quite what he was after. It looks like Matt Slight's falling away from this second quintet a little bit at the moment. And the McLaren still 1.1 seconds behind Efkan Berkier in the Porsche. So if he can stay about that distance, he should get a little bit of slipstream to help him along. We're going to have a look here at Gilles Gardner. Gilles Gardner's had a drama. Wow, Gilles had a big drama. Not sure what's happened here. That's him stopping to get out of the car. Car's already damaged here. What on earth has happened to poor Gilles Gardner? Not quite sure what's gone on there. This is when he overtook the two cars having an accident in front of him before, actually, and the damage was already on the car, so I'm not quite sure what has caused that for Gilles, but that's a big shame. Oh, Andy Marston's just had an issue. Andy's had a spin. That's the first couple of corners. Very high-speed section of the circuit there. The Porsche won't like that bit. There's his teammate Peter Brill coming up for a photo opportunity for the team, you could say. We go back to our race leader, though, and we look back at this small train of cars behind him, nearly a quarter of the way through the race. Through Maggots and Beckett's once again. I love this. I love the texture as well that the guys have put on the rear wing of this Aston Martin. They've made it look really like real carbon fibre. They've done a smashing job with that spec map. It's very intricate, because usually it's just solid gloss, I believe. So if we go to another one of the Astons, go to Mark Johnson. No, it actually does. It does work like that. I didn't realise iRacing had updated that. Either that or Mark Johnson's done the same thing. I don't know. But yeah, the spec map usually is just solid gloss from what I know, so I'm not quite sure who these guys have employed to make it look like that, but they've absolutely nailed it. In the background there you can see Stephen Burns with John Roberts still behind him. In terms of point scoring positions, Toby Johns is the first car outside of the top 20 still, but he's lost Kim Such at the moment. 4.4 seconds between those guys, and we just had the 4-4s in the top left as well. 44 minutes and 44 seconds left in the GT4 Challenge, Season 4, Round 4. There you go. Danny Lee, he's got 4 cars behind him as well. And they're getting ever closer, actually. James Holman is, anyway. James is starting to look a little bit more racy at this section of the circuit, as Dominic Brennan looked like he was going late on the brakes then. Tensed up. Taylor Adams and Nils Kor are not drifting away from this, but the biggest gap in this queue is from Dominic Brennan back to Taylor Adams. It's about 0.8 of a second. So Nils will be slightly urging him to get on with it a bit here. Gary Toll is close to the back of Mike Horder, I can tell you that for free. He might end up washed at this point, the Spontex CDM Esports unwashed Porsche. Gary has a little look down the inside, but Mike Horder not easy to unsettle, to say the least. As, wow, royalty in the chat. Lewis Ward, reigning champion of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Lewis, really hope you're doing well, buddy. Great to see you in the chat. Thank you for popping by. Even if you watch one lap, thank you very much for popping by. But yeah, no reigning champions in the series this time round. No Apex Racing Academy reigning teams champions, and no Lewis Ward reigning drivers champion. So we are going to have a new champion effectively, because Simon Povey, after the birth of his little boy, is not going to be with us for the whole season. He currently leads the championship coming here, but he's not going to be around for all of it. Which means that Nils Core is going to be the one to try and take the torch. Just down the inside, James Holman makes a move on Danny Lee. He sends it. I wasn't expecting him to do that this early on. But Mike Horder has decided, not Mike Horder, James Holman has decided he doesn't want to sit there all that time. And well, he makes an initial move. Just checking the lap times actually. Last time round, well, he was 0.2 slower in the end, but the fact that they were so close together sort of shows you that he's got the pace to definitely stick with him, not just because of the slipstream. So it's a bit of a deadlock between those two at the moment. Mike Horder still under pressure from Gary Tall. Andy Fox mentioning a geek livery fact in the chat, saying that if you copy the carbon pattern into the spec map metallic folder and leave it as grayscale, it works out. I don't know. I don't know, Andy. I don't use those folders. I just delete them and make my own. I never use the grayscales, to be fair. It's just red, green and blue. RGB channels, basically, to mix the colours you want. It's almost like mixing paint in a pot, literally. Still, it's a fine art, is spec mapping. Basically what determines the metallic and glossy and matte parts on these cars. It was a great addition to iRacing. It's very simple when you get your head around it. If you do it properly, it's very complicated, but there are simple methods. It just means that you don't quite have some of the flexibility with the ways that I do it. Here's Dominic Brennan. No spec map on that car because I couldn't be bothered. Dominic in third place at the minute. Having a great view with these guys, and I wonder how much fuel he's going to be saving here because he doesn't have to push too hard because of the cars behind. Efkan Berkier all over the back of his stablemate Gary Tall. And the other two Spontex CDM Esports Porsches. We're just missing our golden McLaren of Simon Povey and white Aston Martin of Jakub Szymanski. Battle going on further down here as well. John Roberts with Stephen Burns, Drew Fletcher and Kim Such just behind us. Oh no, Kim's just turned Drew. Kim smacks him into the exit of Maggots and Beckett's. Not sure if the move was on or whether Kim's just overdone it. Oh, I don't think there was a gap there. I'm not sure that he was down the inside long enough for Drew to know that he was coming. Drew's carried on, but he'll be understandably upset. He received a lot of contact in the early stages as well, did Drew. He was bumping around with a number of the BMWs, trying to all squeeze one another to the edge of the circuit, as here comes James Holman again, trying this on Danny Lee. Third of the race down, 40 minutes still left to go here at Silverstone in round 4 of the championship. And we've got 2 pit stops each yet to come. So it could still continue to get busier and busier. Fausto Pinto in the chat as well, saying good night everyone. Radio check. Loud and clear. 5x5, Fausto. 5x5, my friend. Here's James Holman then making the move. Nope, still nothing this time. He's trying to get into Danny's head here. This is mental mind games for James Holman. Trying to unsettle the car in front, isn't it? Through what used to be the final corner. Down the start-finish straight. The buildings are miles away now. It's a good view though whenever you go there. It's lovely. But this is not the view that James Holman wants right now, and that is a car in front of him. Even though Danny has been really, really quick, he's still doing 2-minute 10.5s. The pole position time earlier was a 2-minute 10.2. So they're on qualifying pace, these guys. But it's so, so close. And all that time, Dominic Brennan is right behind them. And it's carnival time for Fausto Pinto. Hope you enjoy it, mate. There is Mike Horder, Gary Tall, Efkan Berkier, Matt Slight in this quintet, all chasing down Dean Powell's Aston Martin. And Dean, again, is just holding his ground at the moment. Each of them just holding position, not overdoing it. So easy to overdo it when you're chasing down another car, and just keeping that distance as well is really tough because you have to compromise your braking and brake more than you normally would. You'd have to lift off earlier than you would. It's tough for these guys, very tough. Look at this lead trio, it's so close together. Again, mind games going on. I'm not sure whether this is now because James Holman wants to go past or whether he's just following that closely because it's easy to save fuel. Well, there's your answer. James Holman throws it up the inside in the 104. Mercedes trying to get by the Aston Martin. We've still got 5 different manufacturers in the top 5. Tries to go for a cutback. The car unsettles itself and he slots back into position. Close stuff, this. Very close stuff. Dominic Brennan's got a great view in the Porsche, though. 3rd position for him. He'll be happy to finish in 3rd, to be fair, but listen to that. Listen to how early Dom can lift. This is pure fuel-saving dreamland right now for Dominic Brennan. And Drew Fletcher, unfortunately, has had to come in the pits. I think he might have got some big damage from the earlier contact. Dominic's got about 0.4 of a second back to Taylor Adams. If we have a look behind, you can see Taylor's not a massive amount of distance away. He's not able to follow as closely. Then again, though, it might be Taylor's sort of almighty fuel saving that's keeping him there, because we've seen a few times, especially even at Road America, a circuit where you're on the throttle for so much of the lap, Taylor's fuel saving ability is second to none. He's a very, very good strategic driver. It's Taylor Adams. So we'll see what he makes of this once the pit stops begin. You can see that second quintet in the background. It's awesome to have the field sort of split like that. There is another one as well, actually. 11th place back, John Barnes ahead of Paul Goffin, Mike Murphy. Go on, keep coming into shot as I say your names. Ben Chalcraft. Mark Johnson's dropped off a little bit from it, then Pete Thickett's in there as well, and Danny Lee is the first car into the pit lane. Dominic Brennan going with him, that surprises me, but James Holman carries on, Taylor Adams carries on, so too does Niels Kaur. Dean Powell is coming into the pits as well. There are the guys on their way down. Dominic Brennan moving over to the right as soon as possible. There's Dean Powell, Gary Tall, Matt Slight. But yeah, James Holman stays out, and now he's got a bit of clear air for a lap. Can he outdo our previous race leader, Danny Lee? Efkan Berkier stayed out in the Porsche as well. And now James has to very quickly adapt to his braking markers, his racing lines that he was taking before behind another car, and use the ones that he wants to use when he's on his own. John Roberts carries on, Featherfoot Roberts. Mark Johnson has also continued in the Aston Martin. Dominic Brennan is already leaving the pit lane. He's got ahead of Danny Lee. Dominic Brennan has jumped Danny Lee in the Aston Martin. He was in the pits for about 0.6 of a second less than him. There's the rest of the cars heading out. But yeah, Brennan, there's a bit of a gap over Danny right now. So that's certainly shaken things up. Dean Powell is considerably further ahead of Gary Toll and Matt Slight, who were battling around behind him earlier on. But yeah, the changes are afoot right now. Niels Kaur still behind Taylor Adams. I wonder how long these guys will stay out, because these two made no advances on the cars in front. And I think that Niels Kaur is cooking up something very tasty here with another strategy. Then again, Taylor Adams, just as rapid, could be doing the same. Taylor was amazing when he joined the GT4 Winter Tour. A fantastic addition to the grid, and right now he's a fantastic addition to Niels Kaur's slipstream. See if there's any lifting and coasting here. Wasn't a massive lift for Niels. Late apex though. I believe James Holman will probably come in this time round. Yep, all 3 of them. Yes, all 3 of them end up in the pit lane on this lap. Mike Horder is the next car. It's a long lap here, so you don't often see people get 2 laps extra on a fuel strategy. Maybe just the one. Show you where everybody is in terms of who's pitted and who's not. Dominic Brennan, the highest placed car that has pitted at the moment. Martin Kenyon has not, though. He had a bit of a drama earlier on. He finds himself in the middle of the pack. So Dominic Brennan is heading towards the final couple of corners. James Holman is just sitting in his box, taking tyres as well by the look of it. Nils Court is not. Not sure how much time that will save Nils. We'll have to see. They're about to head out the pit lane. Dominic Brennan is just going down the start-finish straight. You can see them. Well, you could for a moment. Dom moves over to the right-hand side. Let's see where these guys come out. I'm feeling like Holman's going to be out in front of Brennan. Is he on the right? He's just there. There, coming into shot is James Holman. Can Dominic Brennan outdo him? He decides which way he's going to go, gets on the brakes, a bit of a wobble. Danny Lee just gets ahead of Taylor Adams as well, but they literally come back in as they were, except Danny Lee has gone back 2 places, and that is what you've had lost out there, Danny, by being the lead car. He was doing an amazing job, but the 2 guys behind have made it work for themselves, and now Dominic Brennan wants a piece of this. There's a flash of the lights from Taylor Adams. I think he's saying, no, Danny, don't defend. I want to battle with the guys ahead of you. Just go forward. Crack on. Let's stay as a quintet. But even after 1 round of pit stops, these guys are so close together. Mike Horder has lost Dean Powell. Dean has got a great jump on these boys. Gary Toll, Efkan Berkier and Matt Slight are all glued together still. As, oh dearie me, there's a gap there opened up. Mike Horder runs a little bit wide. Gary Toll comes down the inside in the slithery little Porsche. Doesn't quite work though. So after nearly half the race and the first round of pit stops, James Holman leads the... Well, I mean, he's just decided to disappear miles away. But James Holman leads the way into Maggots and Beckett's. I'm not sure whether he'll get a slowdown penalty for that, you know. I'd be surprised if he didn't. Very surprised if he didn't. But look at these 5 all glued together. Nils Kohr, the German, hoping to save fuel even more. He might have also faked these guys out. It may sound really stupid, but he could potentially have saved fuel in that first stint and then just thought, no, I'm going to reset, know how much I can save, and then go from there as Danny Lee throws it up the inside of Dominic Brennan. That's not the battle you want to have with James Holman at the very front. As Dominic defends again, back down the inside. Is he going to close the gap? I'm not sure. They're still side by side. This is just going to lose them time. This is going to lose them a lot of time to James Holman if they continue battling like this. They need to work together. They need to move forward together. Taylor Adams lets Danny Lee slot back in, but look at Holman. He's moved away so fast. And Danny Lee's still trying it on Brennan. Brennan defends the inside line. He's going to try and go around the outside, is Danny Lee, then cut back to the inside line in the loop. But it's one of the slowest parts of the circuit to try and get a move like that done. Really holds them all up, and this is just going to be... I mean, especially Nils Kohr and Taylor Adams watching this go on in front of them. They're going to be smacking their heads against the steering wheels right now. They're going to be screaming at these boys because the gap to Holman is now past slipstreaming range. And James can easily run away at that sort of distance. We know how fast he is. He's made it work in the first round of pit stops. What can he do for the rest of the race? We'll have to see. Dean Powell's not out of the equation here, by the way. Dean's having a really good run, sitting in 6th place at the moment. 2.6 seconds to the cars ahead. He's actually closer to them than the cars behind are to him. Gary Toll and Mike Horder having a scrap. Efkan Berkier and Matt Slight have dropped away a little bit. And then John Barnes just outside the top 10 with Paul Goffin for company. And we've got Mike Murphy, Pete Thickett and Ben Chalcraft, the BMW Owners Club. And the snack variety on its way. Got the 2 Seabrooks cars, and then got the Tic Tac Scuderia Chicken House car in the middle. Lovely liveries on all these cars though, you've got to love it. It's fantastic to see. There's been amazing banter, like I say, in the Discord server behind the scenes here with those guys and the Seabrooks liveries. It's just awesome fun. Francis asks in the chat, is this a game? Yes, I'll just say yes. I won't be I won't be Chaz about it. It's technically a simulator, but it's, yes, a game. Absolutely is. iRacing actually call it the Premier Motorsport Simulation game or something. So yeah, it is a game, my friend, yes. All these wonderful people are racing wherever they may be in the world, most of them in the UK. As, oh dearie me, James Holman is off the road. James Holman spins from the lead and goes back. No, does he go back to the pits? There's a bit of a blink here and there. I'm not sure if he's had some sort of technical issue. But James Holman is off the road, everybody, and has lost the race lead. What on earth has happened here? So Danny Lee goes down the inside. Actually, this was a while ago, to be fair. That was the previous lap. That's what happens to Holman. Does he jump? Was he pushed? Ah, he's had some sort of technical there. Now, when you blink in and out on iRacing, it is not always to do with your connection. It can be a hardware issue. And that is devastating for James Holman. Leading the way so well after the first set of pit stops. And Danny Lee is now the one that finds himself up at the front of the field. He's actually opening up a little bit of a gap over those few corners over Dominic Brennan as well. Maybe that's fired him up to get cracking. Aidan saying he's been R-factored. Yeah, maybe so, mate. Maybe so. Peter Brill, Andrew Marston and Martin Kenyon are fighting together, although Martin, I think, has just lost a bit of time there. I'm quite sure what happened there. Let's have a look at this. Oh, Martin, I think, having his own technical issue. Goodness me. Not sure if his monitor went off or something there, or whether he couldn't see where he was going, but wow. Scary moment for the guys behind. Great avoidance by Marston and Brill. Here's Nils Kaur then in the BMW. Now we no longer have 5 manufacturers in the top 5. Down the hill they go, or what is a slight hill, in towards the chicane, and you can hear just how early Nils is lifting. It's great to hear that, because you know that it lines us up for a fantastic ending to this race in a bit. Such a shame though for James Holman. He is carrying on, but he's in a bit of no man's land here. He's got 6 seconds ahead of him to Mark Johnson, and then just over a second and a half to Stephen Burns behind him, who has also got John Roberts for company, fellow neon green enthusiast. And it's the Mercedes against the BMW. 2 big beefy German bits of kit. Just inside the points at the moment. Points all the way down to 20th in this championship, as mentioned. The biggest mover in the top 20, actually, well, there's not that much movement inside the top 20. It's all drivers that have gained 2 places or more. Taylor Adams is the highest placed of them. Nils Kaur has gained 2 spots. So too has John Barnes, Pete Thickett, Stephen Burns, John Roberts and Ralph Meyer in car number 990. But the biggest mover in the field is actually Kyle Ridley, who's gained 5 spots after starting 27th on the grid, after only getting that single lap in qualifying. Kyle has made some progress. He's not quite into a point scoring position yet, although he has been about a second and a half a lap quicker than the cars in front of him for a couple of laps now, so we'll see how far he makes it. Here's Dominic Brennan trying desperately to stick with our race leader Danny Lee. Gap is 0.6 of a second now back to the Porsche. Then Taylor Adams is about half a second back, but I think honestly Taylor and Nils here are working together to just slipstream and just save fuel this whole time. And in the final pit stops they're going to be the ones to be reckoned with. Mike Horder is glued to the back of Dean Powell. These guys have caught up quite quickly actually, after losing a lot of time earlier on to Dean. They've gotten right back in the fight. Just checking the time of the leaders. And there's green sectors coming in here and there and everywhere actually. They're all sort of swapping green sectors. Fastest sector 1 by Dominic Brennan. Fastest sector 2 by Danny Lee. Fastest sector 4 by Taylor Adams. These guys are really pushing on. Unfortunately, Martin Kenyon has had an issue. I think he's been trying to get back past these guys. That's Peter Brill that he's side by side with there. Down the inside into Stowe. And he goes through. But then I think he's had an issue right at the end of the lap. I'm not sure if his screen's gone off again or something. If he's had another technical... Oh, Peter's actually had a look. Oh, and Peter's just... I don't know. It's like he got distracted or something. He looked to the left and wanted to go down the inside. He waits for Martin though, which is nice. Good sportsmanship. But a little bit clumsy there from Peter Brill. Just taps the back of the Aston in front. And this is the BMW culmination. Pete Thickett in the Scuderia Chicken House car. All of these guys actually started together on the grid, if you'll remember. All gaining 1 spot apiece. And at the moment, they're all doing very similar lap times. Ben Chalcraft is hoping to make a move and get closer and closer to his teammate. You can see actually Pete Thickett seems to be a bit quicker this moment. Ooh, a bit of a wobble and a real sort of four-wheel drift, float down a gear, spike the revs, and off we go. Conditions have been quite interesting here at Silverstone as well this evening. The sun has come out for just small bursts, but it's been very cloudy mainly. Even though the sun is out on the circuit, it's not really casting a massive shadow in a lot of places. It always seems a bit very Britishly gloomy here at Silverstone. And here is your lead quartet again. Danny Lee, hoping to get his first win of the campaign. He's got 1 podium so far. And he got that in the very first race of the season. He said it was not quite the boxing match that he was after, but he still takes the points. And he has got big pressure right now from Dominic Brennan behind him. Don't forget we had the opposite at Road America in round 2 of the championship. One of the best battles we've ever seen in the SRM GT4 challenge between Danny Lee trying to get past Dominic Brennan for 3rd position. He was staring at the back of that Porsche for so long. I think if he has to look at it for a single lap now, he would go bonkers. That's probably why I tried to get back in front of it so suddenly after the pit stops. But Danny Lee's got himself in a commanding position. Heartbreak, of course, for James Holman. You have to be gutted for him after what happened earlier. Look at the Porsche just glued to the back of this Aston Martin. The Spontex CDM Esports cars will go through a slight livery rework before the next round of the championship. Just new logos and brands to have included on them. But right now they've got different brands behind them as well, because we have Nils Kaur here in 4th place, trying to save fuel behind Taylor Adams, and Taylor is saving fuel behind Dominic Brennan. It's a bit of a painful situation for the top 2 guys as well, knowing that all of this fuel savings going on behind them. It's not easy to get around that. You can see the gap opening up in the parts of the circuit where they get to the really high speed bits. Go a bit further back because Mike Horder has got pressure from Efkan Berkier now. Efkan's overtaken Gary Tall. They've had a good scrap over the last couple of laps as Matt Slight now continues to put pressure on Gary. Trying to find his way around the seemingly very little Porsche. Looks very narrow here on iRacing. Gary's committed a little bit early to the second to last corner in the Maggots and Beckett section. And here comes Matt Slight down the hanger straight. Not in the slipstream, funnily enough. Moves over to the left. I think he's trying to prove the point to Gary, saying, look, I'm not trying to overtake you. I want us to try and work together to catch back up with the cars ahead, because that was helping me in the long run. And Dean Powell has started to move away from these guys again as well. He's gained a bit more of an advantage over the likes of Mike Horder and Efkan Berkier. Efkan put on a fantastic overtaking display at Laguna Seca. Had an unfortunate incident with Pete Thickett, which threw Pete into the pit lane. But it's been a very interesting race. This one, a lot of just gradual chases. It's a slow burner, admittedly, but it always is the case that drivers think about strategy in this championship, and then it all just erupts in the final minutes when the pit stops have all made themselves clear and everybody is shown their hand in terms of what strategy they're going for. That's when it all kicks off. Danny Lee still at the very forefront of this, with Dominic Brennan chasing him in the Porsche. The Aston Martin looking very strong. Trying to remember the last time that we had a driver in an Aston Martin win a round of the championship. I know that sounds really, really bad. I'm thinking James Holman, but James last season was in a Porsche. The Apex Racing Academy guys were in McLarens when Lewis Ward won the title. Alan Brandt was in a Mercedes last time. Simon Povey's been in a McLaren for a few seasons. There was no Aston Martin win in Season 3. We'd be looking back to Season 2, I'm pretty sure, to see anybody take a win for an Aston there. Pretty sure it would have been... Oh, I don't know, actually. Not sure. I wonder if the chat can confirm, because it might just be Season 1. Because the Aston Martin came in early on in Season 1. And there was definitely race victories for it there. So, yeah, I think it's been at least 2 seasons since we had an Aston win a race, which is terrifying. And it would have been... you know what, I don't know. It may have been Simon Povey, because I think he changed to the Aston Martin partway through Season 1. If that was the last time it was won, then we're talking June 2022. So over a year and a half ago, since the last time that Aston Martin won a race in this championship, or a race was won by somebody driving Aston Martin. I'm pretty sure James Holman won one somewhere, though. I'm sure that he'll correct me at some point. But it's been a really solid race so far by Danny Lee. He's done everything right, really. He's not had much to be able to sort of fight back with when it comes to the strategy. Dominic Brennan is actually falling back a little bit here. And he's getting under pressure from Taylor Adams behind. Niels Kor still sat there in 4th place. Keep your eye on that big blue and white BMW, though. Ah, yes, Rob's absolutely right. Holman won a Winter Series racing in the Aston. That's it. I was going to say, I'm sure that he's driven the Aston before. I remember him winning at Tsukuba. I don't remember a race in Tsukuba in the championship, because the point of the Winter Tour was that we had the Asian and Australasian circuits. So, thank you very much, Rob. Love you. So yeah, in terms of GT4 Challenge, we haven't had an Aston Martin win since Season 1, which was over 18 months ago now. So it'll certainly be something for celebrating for Danny Lee to be the first person to do that for a long, long time. Dean Powell and Mike Horder making the Aston look very good as well, inside the top 10, 5th place and 6th place for them. Efkan Berkier into the pits. Now he breaks the trend here, comes in a little bit earlier than the guys around him. But interestingly, nobody else in that battle jumps into the pits. Back to this, in the BMWs, you can see they've got this strange red sort of glow around the lights from distance. Pete Thickett and Ben Chalcraft both hoping that Mike Murphy will shimmy on here. Ben will be cheering his teammate on from distance as Pete tries to make a move. He's actually looking down the inside but breaks early. He's just trying to get into his head at this point, I think, is Pete Thickett. For Scuderia Chickenhouse, he's had a lot of rough luck at the start of the season, so he's hoping that that improves as time goes on. It's good to have him still with us, though. He was considering stepping back from the championship, but he's been away. We've had the week off. Everybody's come back refreshed and revitalised, and we're here at Blighty at Silverstone. We're at the 3rd quarter of the race distance now. Not long left in round 4 of the championship. So it's Danny Lee leading the way. Dominic Brennan 2nd. Taylor Adams currently in 3rd ahead of Niels Kor. Then it's Dean Powell rounding out the top 5. Mike Horder in 6th place. Gary Tall 7th. Matt Slight. And then John Barnes, who's gained 3 positions since he started. Very much in no man's land as well. He's got Paul Goffin-ish for company. Paul's just about in slipstream range, but he's not going to be getting a massive amount from that. Still, Paul's going well. He's had a really good season so far. There's a move as Kyle Ridley has been overtaken by Ralph Mayer. Kyle's having a bit of a tough night as well, but he's hoping to get back into the points as Ralph's gone a bit deep. Kyle goes through. That's 21st position for him. Back up to the other BMWs. Mike Murphy still trying to stay ahead of Pete Thickett using the slipstream, and Danny Lee comes into the pits. Race leader is in, and everybody that was behind him is carrying on here. As you see, Dominic Brennan, Taylor Adams and Niels Kaur. They've got the 23 car just in front of him. That's Peter Brill. Dominic will be hoping that Peter stays over to one side here and lets these guys by with ease. Onto the brakes they go into the first part of the circuit, and yeah, Peter just moves over to the left and lets the top trio go. Niels Kaur is very much ominous here, I think. He may for those that haven't watched the championship before, that don't know what Niels is like, they will probably see this and think he's just sat there all race, Chaz. Why are you focusing on him more than, say, Taylor Adams? But Taylor is phenomenal, don't get me wrong. Niels Kaur has proven so many times that he's always in control of these situations. And even if he finished where he is now, he would take the championship lead here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. There's so many people, even other drivers in the series, that are willing on Niels Kaur for a championship. He's such a lovely guy, such a good laugh. He's been an amazing addition to this championship. And when he eventually won his first race in this community during the GT4 Winter Tour, everybody loved it. Everybody went mad for it. He only just missed out on the Winter Tour title, and it's been such a popular string of results when Niels Kaur has done well. So I know there's a lot of people that would love to see him take a championship victory. He's won 2 races on the bounce at the moment, so he's in form. And it's going to take a lot to stop him, I think. Danny Lee is just in front of these two here. We're looking at Mike Murphy and Pete Thickett, who are having a battle down towards Copse. Pete puts his nose down the inside. Mike makes sure that he stays on the circuit. Pete gives him the room, and, well, Mike gets a really good run down towards Maggots and Beckett's. Through the left, then the high-speed right. That's usually the pinch point for any sort of battle. James Holman behind these guys as well, by the way. You can see James just in the background there in the black and magenta Mercedes. Good bit of defending that, though, by Mike Murphy. Holds him off for now. Dominic Brennan into the pit lane. Taylor Adams and Niels Kaur, as expected, carrying on. So Taylor Adams making that McLaren sing and sip its fuel lap after lap. I think Mike Horder and Paul Goffin are both going through as well. Actually, sorry, that's not Paul Goffin, that's Peter Brill being lapped. But Mike Horder continues on for another lap as well, so he's done a good job of saving the fuel. Peter Brill moves over to one side. Paul Goffin is actually carrying on, though, funnily enough. Now, where are the others? Because Dominic Brennan is just getting moving now, and Danny Lee is barely down the start-finish straight. Look for the Aston Martin at the bottom of shot, or on the right of shot, and no, he's not there. Wow, Dominic Brennan. 2 seconds over Danny Lee. Danny has been leading for a lot of this. Now, Holman is there, sure, but he's not really there because he had a spin earlier and he still has to pit. Now there is Mark Johnson just behind Dean Powell, who is now behind Efkan Berkier. And look at that, throws it up the inside. He really doesn't want to be overtaken by Efkan this early. He wants to get back in front of him, really get into his head and hold that position. Doesn't work though. The sprightly little Porsche makes its way around the outside. So effectively, out of all the drivers that have pitted twice, now Dominic Brennan is effectively the race leader. It's been a long, long time since Dominic won a round of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. He's finished 2nd and 3rd so many times, but he took a pair of race victories towards the end of Season 1. As soon as he introduced himself to the championship, we knew he was quick. But since then, it's been a long time since we've seen him win. Mark Johnson back out on the circuit. He's just had one stop, though, so he's not effectively battling with those boys right now in front of him. Let's go back forward, though, to Taylor Adams and Niels Kaur, who will be some of our final leaders to pit. Mike Horder and Paul Goffin also carried on behind them. But this is Taylor's opportunity. You don't get points for leading a lap or anything like that, so there's no sort of prestige in doing so. And they're going to carry on again. Now, remember what I said earlier on, that you don't often see people take 2 extra laps than the cars around them, but these guys saved 1 lap of fuel earlier, and now they've done a second one. This is remarkable. There's only 9 minutes of this race left, and with such a long lap around here, they're going to have saved a lot of fuel. I'm interested to see what they do at the end of this race. Very, very interested. There's Mike Horder, Peter Brill in the pits. Paul Goffin will be there as well in just a moment. You can see Kim Such leaving in the background. James Holman makes his way in. His Mercedes, just about to rumble its way past. There is James. But yeah, Dominic Brennan, effective race leader right now with Danny Lee 2 seconds back. So Danny's not even in the slipstream. He's just got to use outright pace to try and catch back up with that Porsche. Dean Powell overtaking a couple of drivers who are having their second stops. Holman is in the pits. Paul Goffin is moving again. And Mike Murphy's actually now behind Ben Chalcraft. There's been a bit of a shimmy around between these guys. They've done their second pit stops, and unfortunately for Mike, being ahead of Thickett and Chalcraft all this time, has given them opportunity to fuel save. Thickett up there in 14th place, having a good run. He's got James Holman just ahead of him now. But yeah, I'm very intrigued. Very intrigued. We've got battles still going on though as Dean Powell looks down the inside of Mike Horder. Mike has come out just in front of him, but behind Efkan Berkier, so Efkan can start to break away from the guys and not have to worry so much about whether they're saving any more fuel at the end of the race or whether they're able to just use the slipstream to overtake him. Then again, why would you save fuel now after the final stops? Shut up, Chaz. 7.5 minutes left, and it's Taylor Adams and Nils Kaur, the McLaren from Regenta Sim Racing, car number 65, and the Satellite Racing BMW. Noticed as well that Nils Kaur's teammate Ryan Walker isn't here, unfortunately, this evening. Ryan, a regular commentator, probably with duties elsewhere. I'm afraid Peter Brill's had a drama, and Taylor Adams comes in, but Nils Kaur carries on again. Well, I have mentioned it, haven't I? I try not to blow too much smoke up this bloke's backside, but Nils Kaur, as we can see, is pulling a blinder right now. Pulling a blinder. Let's see what happens when the guys come out the pits. Peter Brill has moved over to get out of the way of traffic, and he's just come to a stop to let the cars go. That's what happened to him. Now here's Don Brennan. Where on earth is Taylor Adams? I can tell you he's still in the pits. Still in the pits. And he's just got moving now as Taylor. So I think Taylor's going to be about 2 seconds ahead of these guys as well, you know. There he is, look, getting moving. We'll go on the left rear camera. There is the Porsche of Dominic Brennan. And yeah, Taylor's done a great job as well. Wow, look at that. But also look at how far Taylor is ahead of Danny Lee. Because Taylor's there. Danny is 4 seconds back nearly. Well, it's about 3 seconds actually. But that is a big old gap, that. And that shows you the power of fuel saving. I told you he was just sitting there using that slipstream from the guys in front. He may have been falling away slightly, but that's not because he wasn't on pace. It's because he was trying to save fuel the whole time. Mark Johnson and John Roberts, two of the final cars in the pit lane. But if I bring up the graphic on the left, you will see the only car was sub Martin Kenyon. The only car on that graphic that has not pitted twice is this one. And that is Nils Kaur leading this race. He's been 4th, 5th, all the way throughout this one. Started 6th on the grid. Gained a place early on, overtaking Dean Powell. And then sat at the back of the quartet and the quintet. Just saving fuel behind Taylor Adams, who was already saving fuel. And Nils was saving fuel on top of that. So, yeah, this man is on a flyer at the moment. Like I say, he's in form. He's won 2 of the last races, or the last 2 races in the championship at Road America, and then a blinder at Daytona. And he's only got 5 minutes left here at Silverstone before he could potentially take another one. Taylor Adams has a second to Dominic Brennan, who then has 2.2 seconds back to Danny Lee. Then it's a 7-second gap to Efkan Berkier. And this is how it is. Let's have a look then at their positions. The top 3. The number 1 blob just down here. The yellow one is Nils Kaur. The other 2 are Taylor Adams and Dominic Brennan. Nils making his way all the way down the pit lane. He'll be about the 6th garage back, near that door on the right. And by door, I didn't mean one of the usual ones. I meant the bit that sticks out. Still, Taylor Adams and Dominic Brennan just coming around the final corner now and crossing the line. And Nils is already moving. 7.9 seconds he was stationary for. Is it going to be enough, though? Is he going to be in front of Taylor Adams? He is. He moves over to the left-hand side of the circuit. Brennan has got closer to Adams, and Adams has got closer to Kaur. But in the long run, Nils has overtaken both of them. And he's got 4 seconds over Danny Lee. So the fuel saving is paid off for Nils Kaur, and he leads the way at Silverstone in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge with just 4 minutes left to go. I told you he was cooking up something tasty. And boy, the satellite racing driver has done it again. Now they've got a battle in front of them here. Martin Kenyon and Kim Such are actually battling each other for position. Kim, oh, I thought dived out of the way for just a second, but then the car blinked back into spot. Now, what is Martin going to do here? Is he going to move over on the right on the exit? Looked like it. Seemed like he was tucking the car in. No, he's still not moving. Still not moving. And now he goes over to the left, so gives Nils Kor the shorter line down the inside. What about the guys behind? Dominic Brennan hoping to not catch this. Oh, I would have thought Martin would stay over to the right there. But Taylor Adams and Dominic Brennan not really getting held up by him though there, to be fair. But Martin, in the spirit of Yorkshire racing, Aston Martin moves over to one side. Dominic Brennan through, and Danny Lee will be scratching his head at this point. He'll be gutted with that, but at the end of the day, he was the car that was leading the train for so much of the race. It was only a given that he was going to be the one using more and more fuel. We've got a battle behind as well still, by the way. Mike Horder and Dean Powell are glued to each other. We may only get one more lap in this race, you know. 2 minutes 45 on the clock. I don't know. It's about 2 minutes 10. So I don't think, I think we'll get 2 more laps here, but only just. We're going to be just inside that counter. It'll be a lap in about 10 seconds for Nils Kor. Now, is that going to throw people's calculations off? Are they going to be millilitres away from being able to make it to the line? 2 laps left to go then here at Silverstone. I really hope you're enjoying the show, everybody. It's been a real solid race this for so many of our drivers. Strategy really coming into play on a circuit like this that uses a lot of fuel. Don't forget to like the stream wherever it may be, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. And obviously subscribe to Chaz Draycott Media as well. You'll see plenty more of this. This championship is not going anywhere. It's been amazing every single time I've broadcasted it. Obviously, I helped run the championship as well with the wonderful Andy Marston. We put this on between the two of us, and we've got what I'd say is probably the best community I've ever been in within sim racing, to be honest with you. The guys behind this, especially these two, Ben Shellcraft and Mike Murphy, running the Seabrooks liveries here for Minardi Simsport. Not sure if any of you caught it earlier on in the stream, but half of the Discord just sends each other pictures every day when they've now seen a Seabrooks pack of crisps, so we know what shop sells them and for how much all over Europe. So we are probably the most well-informed people, other than the stores themselves, on the price of Seabrooks and where the best place is to get them. They even give each other, honestly, the guys all tell each other sort of per bag how much that is when it's a multi-pack and all sorts. It's very entertaining, I have to tell you. I went to a Morrison's the other day and got really excited when I saw a packet. Other supermarkets are available. And other crisps, but you shouldn't. Anyway, Nils Kor. What a drive this has been. He's sat in 5th and 4th for most of this race. And anyone that hasn't seen the series before would have just thought that he was sitting there doing nothing exciting. But the German has been calculated. So calculated all the way throughout this. And he's got 40 seconds left on the clock right now, which means that we are going to get one more lap here at Silverstone. And satellite racing, well, this might actually be, I'm not sure if there's ever been a driver that's won more than 3 races in a row. If I look back at Season 2, there might have been, I think the Ed May, Simon Povey battle in Season 1 was potentially a 3 in a row job. But a bit of a bounce over the curb there for Nils Kor. It's going to upset his rhythm slightly. Yeah, of course, it's Simon Povey. Ed May has won 3 races in a row. Simon Povey has won 4 in a row. They're the only drivers to have done that. And Nils Kor's going to join them if he keeps this up. Mark Johnson is with the 2 Minardi Simsport BMWs here, and he's on the charge. Very fittingly wearing the Nigel Mansell design helmet. It's Mark Johnson. Nigel, of course, won the 1992 British Grand Prix in amazing style where the fans flooded the circuit at the end. He nearly ran half of them over. Mark's lost a little bit of time there around the final corner, but on to the last lap they go. Pete Thickett's had a good run ahead of these guys. He's gained the places and he's now disappeared over the horizon. That's Andrew Marston just moving out of the way. But as we see here, Nils Kor is just coming around Luffield. Taylor Adams isn't able to match him at this point. Nils' pace has been fantastic. Dominic Brennan has been fantastic as well. On for another podium. I think that's going to be his third podium of the season. 3rd win, and to be fair, Nils Kor's only been on the podium when he's won the races as well. So it's going to be 3rd win and 3rd podium for him. 2nd podium of the season this will be for Taylor Adams as well. He's been really happy to be in this championship and enjoying himself. And yeah, Andy, you know, Boring Cars was a fantastic laugh, mate. Really was. But the scale of the community here at Sim Racing Magazine, the events we put on and all sorts, it's just been epic. Really epic. So the lead trio, after an hour of racing, are covered by a second. Unbelievable stuff. Not long left to go now. But Dominic Brennan is going to be hoping that somehow this Porsche gains 500 horsepower all of a sudden. Martin Kenyon and Kim Such, by the way, are having a great battle back here. These two are not fighting for points positions, but there's always somebody to race in this community and in this championship, so these guys are enjoying that to its fullest. I don't often ask for clap emojis in chat, everybody. I used to do it for every single broadcast. But please send a couple Nils Kor's way. That is 3 on the bounce for the German driver, and what a drive it was. Nils Kor wins at Silverstone, takes the championship lead, and what a drive for the Satellite Racing member. Taylor Adams, Dominic Brennan and Danny Lee complete the top 4. Efkan Berkier gains a bunch of positions to finish in 5th. Mike Horder is going to be 6th ahead of Dean Powell, Matt Slight. John Barnes is still fighting with Paul Goffin, but there's a bit more of a gap between the two of them now as they head round the final corners. And James Holman recovers to finish in 11th position. Well done to James. Let's have a look how this battle completes. And Chalcraft ahead of Mike Murphy and Mark Johnson. Don't think there's any change there between those guys. There is not. John Roberts actually is ahead of Stephen Burns at this point as well. He was 8 seconds clear by the end of the race. John had a much shorter pit stop due to fuel saving, and Stephen was 8 seconds behind him, although his teammate Kyle Ridley, who is 17 seconds back, is going to be in the points. 1 lap in qualifying Kyle Ridley did. But boy oh boy, what can you say about our race winner Nils Kor? Told you he was cooking up something, because he just knows how to play the strategy so well. He runs the numbers through as he's driving, and it was epic. Absolutely epic. We still wait for a few more cars across the line. Ralph Mayer for Oris Racing Green, he gets 2 championship points for his trouble, and Philip Hopley, he's going to get some championship points this time round as well. Car number 6 finishes in 20th position. Toby Johns is going to be the last car to take the checkered flag, so he gets some free air time before the honours. But unfortunately for Toby, it is just outside of the points, I'm afraid. He's got Gilles Gardner behind him, who is a lap down. Gilles will be classified in 26th. And they complete our runners. And I'm sure Spotify is going to love me talking for more than 30 seconds straight when I read out the results. Nils Kor wins fantastically for the 3rd time in a row. One of 3 drivers to do that. Taylor Adams next up, and Dominic Brennan. Actually, apologies, I think James Holman has won 3 races in a row as well. I'll fact check that. Taylor Adams in 2nd place. Great championship points for him, and once again for Dominic Brennan, another podium to add to his tally. Danny Lee, what a great drive that was from Danny. You'll be absolutely devastated not to have got a podium, but still, a solid result all the same. Efkan Berkier did a great job and finished in 5th place in the end after starting 8th. Mike Horder was next up in 6th place ahead of Dean Powell and Matt Slight. Great entertainment from those battles and those guys in the pack. We then had John Barnes in 9th place with Paul Goffin finishing in 10th. Paul, another top 10 for him. He'll be over the moon with that. James Holman 11th ahead of Pete Thickett. Welcome back to Pete. I'm really glad to see him back today, and he did a good job. Ben Chalcraft and Mike Murphy, the Minardi Sim Sport Seabrooks machines, sticking right together. Mark Johnson finishes in 15th place just behind those guys, while John Roberts eventually dispatches of Stephen Burns and beats him to 16th over 17th. Kyle Ridley finishes in 18th place. Next up was Ralph Mayer, finishing in 19th, with Philip Hopley completing the top 20 and the points finishers as we saw. Then it was Toby Johns in 21st, and the cars that were 1 lap down or more were Martin Kenyon, Kim Such, Andrew Marston, Peter Brill and Gilles Gardner, and our non-finishers were Gary Tall and Drew Fletcher. Don't remember seeing what happened to Gary Tall in the race, though. Not sure if anybody else remembered that, but Gary unfortunately not completing the race. Not sure if he had a hardware issue or something along the way. But fingers crossed, it was nothing major. Let's go back then to the start of the race, on the replay at least. We'll slow things down, and we are going to have a chat with some drivers and see who we can get a word from. And I tell you what, why not go straight to the top and speak to Nils Kor. Nils, very well done, my friend. Another win, 3 on the bounce now. Not many drivers have done that, but it's the perfect time to do it with Simon not here.
Yeah, definitely. After qualifying, I didn't really expect it. Definitely helped that James had a bit of a spin. I think otherwise it might have ended differently.
And what was it like trying to save fuel though? Because I sort of picked up on the strategy part way through, but it doesn't look like an easy place to do it really, despite some big braking zones.
Actually, you can save massive amounts of fuel.
Well, you proved the point.
Yeah, especially in Maggots and Buckets, you can just coast into there easily if you are following other cars. So you're basically losing no time, but I was saving like 0.3 liters per lap, which is huge, really. You can't do that on most trucks.
Good lord, I was going to say, I didn't think it'd be that much because of how many high-speed sections of the track there are, but that's, crazy numbers. Still, it's, 0.3, but it's 3 wins in a row, and obviously your confidence must be at quite the high now. It wasn't the best first round for you, but, I mean, you take the championship lead with this one, so surely you're feeling good ahead of the first sprint races of the season.
Yeah, pace definitely picked up. The results picked up. The pace was also there on the first one, I think, kinda. The sprint races are definitely, I sadly can't do my fuel saving game there, so that's definitely gonna be a new challenge. Also because I never drove the track we're going to, so that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, Le Dainon's going to be a very different race meeting, I think, but it's going to be an exciting time. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to tonight, Nils, for your performance?
Yeah, as usual, a big shout out to Satellite Racing and our sponsors.
Lovely stuff. Always a pleasure, Nils. Fantastic victory again. Great to see you on form. And we look forward to seeing you in a week. Have a good one.
Yep. See ya.
Nils Kaur there, race winner, fantastic performance all night, and well, one man that I definitely want to speak to after that one. He recovered to 11th place in the end, but James, you must be heartbroken after that one, mate. It's not the easiest of moments to deal with. Was it a hardware failure as we suspected?
Yeah. Went into Windows mode and I lost the screen for about 3-4 seconds.
Oh.
So yeah, gutted really. Yeah. Not much more to say. The first time I've had to pace this season and bucket on pole, which is my first ever pole in this league and the championship. And I was cruising behind Danny. I was just.
I was going to say, I think we figured out the moment where you got fed up of sitting behind Danny though, and eventually went for the move. It was certainly exciting to watch. But, I mean, what was it like getting the Mercedes round there tonight? Because, obviously, you're in a car this season that there's not many of you in the field in, is there?
Yeah, I don't really know the Mercedes that well, especially on the fixed setup. It seems to be good in the high-speed corners, and it's really got poor traction. So, like Daytona, I was just suffering like mad on the slow corners to get out into the banking. So, I was pleasantly surprised when I did a couple of laps last night, and I thought, okay, this might be quite good. And like I say, to stick it on pole was pretty good. And yeah, I was leading by second and a half or whatever it was, and then it got taken away. But the Mercedes is good. Mercedes is an interesting car to drive. It's not it's very different to the other GT4s, and I'm learning slowly. So, I'll have to try again next week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. You've got to continue moving on and see what you can do, but it's a shame to see the result go that way for you, because it was obviously very exciting to have you right up at the sharp end of the order, and we hope to see you go well at Le Dainon next time round in France.
Yeah, I was hoping to get that third manufacturer win, but it wasn't meant to be tonight. And hi to my mum who's watching at home. She's had a bit of a tough week, but so hello to her, and I was hoping to win that one for her because it's been such a tough week. So let's try again next week.
Absolutely, mate. Well, very well done either way. It was great to see you on the pace, and we look forward to seeing you next time round, James. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
James Holman there, as you can all imagine, absolutely heartbroken after that performance, but somebody that certainly played the game tonight and won't be as heartbroken after that one was Taylor Adams. Taylor, a second place here tonight at Silverstone, very close to the win, but boy, there was mere tenths of a second between you all when it came to pit strategies and all sorts.
Yeah, that was a proper game of chess. That I don't know how Nils did an extra lap than me at the end. I was like, he's going to follow me in, and it'll be a straight fight to the end. And then he went, and I was like, oh no.
He's a terrifying bloke, isn't he?
Yeah, he's so fast. And yeah, I was using everything I had at the end to try and catch him. I just didn't have quite enough. But I'm surprised I'm annoyed at second, but I'm like half happy, half annoyed, because I didn't really have the pace tonight, I don't think, on pure pace to fight for the win. But then at the end I thought I could win this, and then to not, it is what it is.
Yeah, it certainly looked like a tough one, but at the end of the day, we could see there was a bit of a strategy going on, and the idea of saving fuel around this circuit. I mean, I said to Nils a moment ago, I thought it would have been really tough, but he says it's quite the opposite. It's a circuit where you can save fuel if you're in the right place, at least. But yeah, it was. It's all about mind games in this championship, isn't it? But it's going to be very different next time round at Le Danon.
Yeah, that'll be a flat-out race. I'm better at fuel. I've got better pace normally when I fuel save than when I'm giving it the beans, so I'll have to get good at braking late and stuff. But yeah, it's a weird track because half the track you carry a lot of speed and a lot of momentum, so it's easy to save fuel. And then you have the hairpins where you really have to use all the power and more to try and get out of them. So it's like half the lap's really easy to save fuel, and the other half's just impossible, essentially.
Yeah, it's intriguing actually. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but certainly great to see what you guys can do when you have the fuel saving capabilities. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Taylor, before we have to wrap things up?
Well, first off, I'd like to give you and everyone involved in the championship and everyone racing in the championship a big shout out. It's a brilliant community, and then also a big shout out to Matt Slight for again helping me get on the pace. He didn't have he didn't have the best evening tonight, but he's definitely going to be there later in the season, I think.
Awesome stuff. Always a pleasure, Taylor. Thank you very much for jumping in, and we'll see you next time round. Have a good one.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Taylor Adams there, everybody, finishing in second position in that race. Big championship points for him. And as he said, Matt Slight didn't have his worst night, but he didn't have his best night either. It's been a very, very difficult championship already for a lot of these guys at the front of the order. It's so close up there, and we have an amazing array of talent inside the top 10 and top 15 positions. That is going to be all from me here on Chaz Draycott Media tonight for the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. As you've heard, everybody, they're going to be moving on to Circuit de la Denon in France in a week's time, where we're going to have our first sprint race night of the season. A 20-minute race and a 30-minute race. It's going to be mighty, mighty exciting, but Nils Kaur does the triple and takes the championship lead heading to France. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you again very soon.
Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The three wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, these are 5-ton machines, 1200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been moved and a drift to show off. Ben Gregory now, I love it. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favourite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.